Hello and welcome to Talk Junkie. I'm Justin Perkins. I don't know if you can find this under Talk Junkie yet. If you're already subscribed, there's been some name changes on the podcast and things. This thing's been like in limbo for a year. But it is up and going now, and all that will be settled. And by the time it is, you won't have to worry about that. Today, we're going to do a podcast I've done about 3 times, and I just decided, hey, let's re-record it again. I've got some really good podcasts coming up. I don't know what order they'll hit. I've got 3 good guests coming up. I don't know when, if, and how. There'll be a musician in there. A very funny person I love sitting down and talk with, and there's a lot of things coming in there, and I don't know, and that's kind of why I redid this one, even though I had it recorded once, is because I wanted to add some of the other new stuff in with it. Big thing is, I'm trying to get this out at the time being. I know this is not going to be a full-time thing. I'm not going to be able to pull this off, but while I'm just tinkering with it, I'm trying to see if anybody's listening, and if they are, can I get this shared and put other places and get followers and listeners without having to use social media myself? And that's what today's podcast is about. It's about social media. But that's kind of part of the challenge I got going right now. So if you hear this, share it. Try to get somebody to sign up. Try to get somebody to get on iTunes and pick it up. Instead of Talkcast, hopefully by the time this is up, it will be under there as Talk Junkie. A little red picture with a microphone says Talk Junkie in the photo. If not, if you are a subscriber to the YouTube page and you're hearing it on YouTube, go to iTunes, subscribe, and give a comment or a rating. But also share the YouTube and see if we can get it out that way. And it's on the Author J. Perkins YouTube page. And if you want to contact me, you can contact me at authorjperk, P-E-R-K, at gmail.com. So I'm going to try that avenue and see how many people I can get to kind of listen and get it spread around. I may message it to a couple people and kind of see if they're aware of it and see what it's on. But either way, let's get into the meat and potatoes of today's podcast. Today's podcast is about social media. I remember in the late 90s for me, I don't know exactly when this started, but the late 90s was this big explosion of chat rooms. And I dabbled, I looked around, I kind of, it was the Wild West of then, and that really got going into the early 2000s, and I don't know. I was such an outside kid because mid to late 90s were my teens. I graduated high school in 2000. I was such an outside person from BMX to skating. Even when we played music, that was probably the majority of our time inside. Was band practice. I was just an outdoors person. I like to be outside. I like to be doing things and going places, and the internet really, I only used it mainly for music, to get music, to listen to music, things of that nature. But I guess my first experience with what would be considered somewhat social media would be the very limited experience I had with those chat rooms, and I'm not well versed in them, but after the chat rooms came ICQ. And at the heyday of ICQ, I'm not sure when that was, because again, I wasn't big with things like that. But I know by 2000, I was on it fairly frequently. I lived away from the area I was raised in. I lived up closer towards Lexington, Kentucky. I lived in Winchester. Me and a couple friends were living together. And that's where probably one of the first times I had internet full time, and it, all the time, like I was in a place that had it, because when I first moved out of the house, I didn't have internet in the little apartment I lived in. So at this point, I have access to internet every day. So that was probably my first real opportunity to do anything involving the internet a lot, um, and I become semi addicted to ICQ, mainly because the woman that would eventually be my wife was on there. Um, and I would talk to her, but that was very short because we ended up dating. And once we started dating, I just abandoned ICQ and talked to her in person. I assumed that was a far better method of getting to know someone. I, I mean, the trend currently seems to point that I could have possibly been wrong, but I enjoyed having a voice. I didn't need a voice at that age. I don't think a lot of people really need a voice often at that age because a lot of the things I said were probably pretentious or stupid or just for shock value. But that was my first real introduction to social media. And again, I only used ICQ for the time period kind of that I was dating my wife. And once we got together, I had it for maybe a little bit of, but literally it was almost instantaneously. It was gone because I didn't have the need for it any longer. I think I looked at it as more of a dating thing, and then MySpace came along. Um, MySpace at first, I really just didn't have anything to do with it. I didn't completely understand it. I'm always been a slow adopter to these things. Somewhat out of it's not in my wheelhouse, and the interest just isn't there. But I did eventually find MySpace initially as a personal thing, and this would have been a couple years. I don't know exactly timeline wise, but it was well after MySpace had been around. I found it, and like I said, initially for personal use, and then it went, straight to band use. We had a band, we used it. We had a couple. We had the one for Hollow Point. We had the one for Dysfunction. The one for Dysfunction is actually still up, and I think it's or Fractured. I went from I'm not Dysfunction, but Fractured. The one for Fractured is still up. I believe if you go to MySpace, it's Fractured Fans possibly, or Fractured Band. You see a picture of some cool guy standing up against a brick wall with one leg up against the brick wall, being tough. That was us, because we were metal, obviously. Um, but that, we used it for that. My friend Tyler and I, who also played drums for Fractured, on the other hand, used it for a show called Pirate Radio. Well before the movie, of which I think they owe us some type of homage or payment of some sort because we were the original pirate radio, of course, after the original pirate radio that was actually a pirate radio station. But that was basically a show we did on Ustream. Now, things of that nature, things like Ustream and YouTube, have always had a great attraction to. We did a live stream show on Ustream, and then we would link it to MySpace, and I kept the MySpace page for the entirety of that show, and we had a blast doing that show. Local music, we had video, audio, we could joke around. It was definitely not a PG show. And we got a lot of viewers, mainly from away from here, especially from China. Apparently, we done it at midnight on Saturday night, and I can't remember the correlation of that, where that put this guy during his daily routine, but he was originally from the States over there, and he seemed to like the show. But we had a great time doing that. But once the bands had died down and the show was over, I walked away from MySpace. I didn't have any feeling of attachment or obligation to it. I just walked away from it. And I knew quite a few people at that time who didn't even have MySpace. It didn't interact. Social media was still very much in its infancy. Um, After MySpace, obviously, came the Facebook days. Um, Facebook was, I was a when Facebook was out, I believe when pirate radio was almost done, or when the band was almost, because I used it some briefly for maybe a month or so to try to promote those things. I just really didn't get it. It was a new setup, a new layout, and I walked away. So I was very, very late adopting Facebook, but when Facebook came up, and I realized that I never seen friends anymore. I never got to communicate with people, and like I'm a very social person. I evidently am not good at showing it, or they just aren't good at interaction. But I really love my friends, and I really miss my friends, and I really miss getting to be around my friends. And so I think I did what a lot of people who are dealing with long distance relationships with friends do is they join Facebook, even though most of my friends were right here. Um, the Facebook was just not for me. Like I followed it and I tried to do it to stay in contact with people, but I was constantly deleting my profile. I'd go a couple months, add it back, go a year, delete it, and I did that for quite a while. And I actually, if anybody that knows me has a friend still, I know my nephew does, named Kurt Rambis, and it is a picture of the basketball player Kurt Rambis. That was me. That was mine because I never liked the idea of people. I don't know. I kind of liked some private aspect to it, and it became very unprivate. Um, but eventually, somehow, I got hooked. I would say probably the first time was during an election, um, that I kind of got hooked, because to me this seemed like a gold mine of places to make jokes and post funny things, and that's not. And I guess at that time that's kind of what it was, but it got all encompassing. I was reading a lot of news. I was reading a lot of posts. I was trying to fact check a lot of things, which is hard to do with Facebook. And it kind of overtook me for a little bit, so I walked away for a while and then came back. When I came back was probably about 3, 4 years ago. I kept it a couple years to come back. Now, about 2 years ago, I came back, started an account, and that was it. It was every free moment I had at work, I was scrolling and commenting and actually getting angry sometimes and getting frustrated. And I was saying things that were offending people, saying things that were hurting people's feelings, even though they were jokes. I didn't understand that. Um, Posting things that I would later regret because people just didn't have the intelligence to take it for what it was. For a joke, these are posts on a social media website. They have no value. Um, and it just was continual. That's then the meme making, and then I got in group chats, and it my day would revolve around trying to find good memes, trying to make good memes, trying to think of something clever to say, trying to find subtle ways to insult people who I did not agree with. And then the book came out. And when my book came out, I started a second Facebook page, which still exists, Author J Perkins Facebook, and I used it to promote, and that's all I used it for. Maybe a little post here and there about writing or about other artists, and it never took over anything because it wasn't personal. And even though I'll have somebody like, I may jump on and post something every couple months, and eventually, when the next book comes out, which is hopefully soon, fingers crossed, I will use it for promotion again. But it never took on a addictive quality like the personal one did. And I wasn't reconnecting with friends. I was just talking to them on Facebook still. I mean, like now, I'm just talking to them on Messenger. I tried Twitter and, what's the other one? Instagram? No, yeah, maybe it is Instagram. Yeah, Twitter and Instagram. When I first done the book and tried to start the podcast, I don't. It's just not for me. Like I could see where it could become addictive, maybe, but they're still out there somewhere. I don't even know the logins or what the actual names on them were. But Facebook was the issue, and I know I was years behind everybody else in getting addicted, but it was the issue, and I could see where it was dominating my day. So I took this, and this has been probably a year and a half ago. I did kind of this social media cleanse. Okay, for 1 month, I wouldn't touch any social media, any kind. Um, which in my realm was just Facebook. That was it. So the first day I was off work, I got up that morning. I checked my phone immediately when I got out of bed. I rolled my phone over and looked, but I deleted the app and everything. And I thought, well, what are you looking for? You know. So I checked my email instead, something that I at that time would have not done. Um, I'd say in the first couple hours of being up, I was sitting on my couch. I was going to go hike. It was warm that day. I would say in the first couple hours of being up, I probably picked my phone up and flipped it over to check it. I would say 50 times, and that's not an exaggeration. It became so just in me that I needed to check this. I needed to look at this. This needed to, and you don't realize it. It's a habit. It's a habit, and it's a very driven habit. Um, and that's starts to scare you a little bit. Like, how much control does this have? Throughout the first couple days, it was constantly checking my phone. I was no longer checking Facebook first thing in the morning. I was checking email first thing in the morning. I would go to the bathroom, and I know there's nothing gross about it. Everybody does it. You take the phone to the bathroom with you. You scroll through Facebook. I would go to the bathroom, and a lot of times just stare at my phone. Um, and that was kind of the first couple days. The first week went by, and I felt separated from people. I felt like I was missing out on people, missing out on life. About a weekend, halfway through, I was indifferent. I didn't really think about it. I didn't feel one way or the other. By the end of the month, I felt different, and I felt good, and I felt like something positive had changed, and I couldn't put my finger on it. Of course, the very first day after the month was up, I went straight back on Facebook, and that was all gone. And I stayed on there for a while. Um, I can't remember when I cut this off for good this time. My guess would be September of 2019 would be the last time I posted anything. Now, since September of 2019, have I been on the author page? Yes, I have been on to. I think maybe I did promote something, send something out for somebody. Maybe not, but I have been on that page probably twice, maybe 3 times since September. The personal page I have been on twice since that time. Um, but it was a long time initially before I got on. I mean, it was months before I got on. So, what happens when an addict, because I was an addict, because by the time I quit, it was back to all day, every day. What happens when you quit? You miss it. I was not able to give up Messenger. Not because of an addiction I have with Messenger, but because of an addiction I have of trying to stay in contact with the few friends that contact me and talk to me on a regular basis. There's 4 or 5 in particular not counting guys I trained jiu-jitsu with, because when I'm in the gym, I've not been training for a while due to work and illness and stuff, but I got to see them every day, and that was some of my most constant contact relationships and some of my best relationships. The guys and gals at jiu-jitsu, which I talk to some of them on Messenger, but it seems like when you're out of the gym, those people don't contact you as much. And maybe you don't contact them as much because you feel like I should be trained, and it's almost a sense of shame. Anyway, I did keep the Messenger because of the people that I contact normally every day, and I couldn't delete the Facebook and keep the Messenger. I tried that. So I look at Messenger like text messaging, and I don't know if that's an accurate description or if that's fair, but that is the way I do it, and it is very valuable to me on my social interaction. But I dropped the Facebook completely, and I did still have I believe it was the Twitter. I dropped it completely, and so I I I decided, let me see what happens another month off. Let me see, because I felt I felt like I was drowning. Like I felt like it really was taking, and a lot of, that's not going to happen for everybody. I do have some anxiety. I can get kind of paranoid, and I'm also always thinking about things like that. So, first month off was just like it was before. I felt great. So let's see what 2 months felt like. 2 months off, and my memory started to come back. What I mean is my ability to store things started to come back. In this 2 months, that was 2 months without major media of any type. No Fox News, no CNN, no MSNBC ever. No ABC, no CBS, no NBC. That was 2 months without reading news just randomly on Google or online or on Yahoo. That was specifically searching out. I don't believe there's anything as non-biased news, because news has become opinion and not news, but that's a different podcast in itself. But going and saying, okay, what does NPR have to say about this? What does New York Times have to say about this? What does, searching out things that are still somewhat credible, and just looking, but not allowing myself, first of all, allowing news to have a couple of days to mellow out, and by the time you're accessing the news, or maybe not, have a couple hours to mellow out, instead of being bombarded with posts about opinion, allowing opinion and initial response to settle, and then allowing facts to kind of bubble up to the surface and looking into the facts. So 2 months in, no real media. I don't watch TV to begin with. No social media. My memory's coming back. My anxiety's down substantially. I was doing CBD. I still am doing CBD, but I'm doing a muscle and arthritis blend now. But at the time I was doing just a CBD oil, so that could be part of the issue. But anxiety was definitely down, and a lot of things changed in the way I thought, the way I felt, my beliefs on a lot of things. I reverted back to being more of the person I was before Facebook, and I did not realize that there was a change. You will be altered by things that influence you every day. I am a very moderate, very middle of the road person. Some issues I'm very liberal on, some issues I'm somewhat conservative on, but for the most part, I am very moderate. I have a deep dislike for the far right and the far left. A deep deep dislike, and in my opinion, they're both so far left and so far right. They're just touching in the middle on the other side. Um, but that will change. I believe that with social media, you could change anyone's religious, political beliefs or their values if done so correctly. If they gave in and let you manipulate things willingly, or willingly let you manipulate things, even if they knew it was coming, I believe you could change that in people with social media. I believe it's that powerful. But a couple months without social media, and I felt great. I felt like me. I felt better. That's now January of 2020, and I see an issue that I guess I knew existed, but I looked at it from more of a person stuck in the middle of the issue than I did from somebody on the outside looking. And I guess everybody, it makes me sound old, and I'm almost 38, so I guess I am old. Um, it's eating people. Technology is eating people, and it's a combination of factors. It's designed to eat us. It's designed to devour our attention. It's designed to enslave our mind. It's our desire for constant contact and constant involvement with everyone around us. And it's our desire to be enslaved. We love it. We love the feel. It's a chemical reaction in our brain. It's the dopamine. They're hitting everything. And man, like I look at people, I still have a smartphone. I want to make that transition to a flip phone. I look there's parts of my day, parts of my job that just require this smartphone, and if that ever changes, I will make that switch. I may anyway, but I still have my phone. I still look at my phone. I don't watch TV. I mean, if I'm off work, I do physically watch a TV, but it's Netflix or it's Tubi, and it's very seldomly, occasionally, this is a bad thing, I'll binge watch something, but it's very seldom that I actually sit down and watch something. I don't have a weekly show or a monthly show that I watch. I don't watch a ton of movies any longer. I do watch a ton of documentaries, but usually that'll be, okay, we worked 6 days a week for X amount of time, and now it's rainy and we're laid off. And I've got time on my hands, so I'm going to sit down and knock out some documentaries. We've been off a couple days this week, and I've knocked out about 3 or 4 documentaries. Some of them short, some of them long, but I really love documentaries. That's my dream, is to make a documentary film. So if there's any documentary filmmakers out there, get in contact with me. I'd love to make a documentary film with you. But my phone is Google Maps, messaging, which can be addictive, texting. Nobody likes to talk on the phone anymore, so there's no phone calls. And sometimes I don't like to. I can understand that to an extent. And YouTube. We're going to come back to YouTube. But I noticed that everybody else is head down. I noticed that when myself and my family would go out to eat, my wife and daughter are on social media, or my wife's painting these little pictures on her phone. My son's on YouTube. And just because in that environment, I'm trained myself now to not use my phone. I'm not on my phone. But everybody else is. Sometimes your waiters are, if you're going out to eat. I've seen people at the drive-thru running my card on the phone. People driving in the cars next to you, because we'll be driving down the road. My daughter will be on the phone, my son will be on the iPad, my wife will be on the phone. and the person driving the car next to you will be on the phone, and the person driving the car in front of you will be on the phone. I'm listening to music. When I drive, I listen to music or I listen to podcasts. I don't understand. I think that we're designed to change. I think we're designed to adapt, and we are the masters of it. No other animal on earth can adapt like we can adapt. No other animal on earth can change the way that we can change. And I think that growth and adapting and changing are good on the whole. For the most part, they're good. There's going to be instances where it's not. You know, we can go back and cherry pick what those are. The Industrial Revolution was a change that could it have been good or bad? I mean, due to the impact we're making on things right now, it's probably bad. But you know, the amount of growth we were able to obtain through it was good. So things that look really good may not always be good. I look at all the technology that's come out, and our medical technology is growing. All those things are great. And my son's was born. My son and daughter are pretty far apart. 12 years actually. My daughter's 21. My son will be 9. Uh, my daughter was very technologically inclined, but we didn't have internet. Maybe the first couple of years, probably I'd say she was 8 before we had internet. Just it was a steady, constant thing because I was a late adapter to that. She may have been a little bit younger than that. My son's had it from day one. My daughter got an iPad. I don't know. I mean, we had it when my son was born, laying in a box, unused. I'd say she was maybe 10 or 11. We got her an iPad. It wasn't her thing. It just didn't appeal to her. He's had an iPad, man, since a very young age. Uh, he's had. They've been back and forth on diagnoses with Asperger's, and some say he is, some say he isn't, and they've said that the iPad would help with this and that, and but these things have become a very integral part of our lives, and I don't know if that's good or bad. Just because there's some positives coming out of it doesn't mean that we're not abusing it. As humans, we abuse almost everything, and these are first world problems to worry about if we're getting too much interaction with electronics. And there's been some studies, and I wrote them down, and I don't have them with me. I had them the first time I recorded this podcast. There's been some studies on how societies where there is less interaction and access to social media, that the pros of social interaction, the ability to uh, solve issues and problems is a little better, sometimes better. But the point is, I've been on this big long hiatus from social media, and YouTube almost pulled me back in with comments and watching videos and stuff. I do have somewhat of a YouTube addiction that has arose from not being on Facebook and feeling like I needed to have my phone in my hand every 5 minutes. So, and from not watching TV. I use my phone instead of a TV. So, I definitely have to chill out with the whole YouTube thing. But I feel like it was an improvement for me to not be on social media. I don't know that I'll never be back on social media. I kind of like social media. I don't miss the post. I don't miss the political post, the religious post, the I just want to be a butthole today post. I don't miss those things. But I do miss pictures of my friends and what my friends are up to. I miss more a actual physical interaction with those people, and those people not dodging you in public and looking down at their phone and walking away and then messaging you, oh, I didn't see you, I wish I would have, I'd love to been able to catch up, when you looked them eye to eye and they walked away. I think that is a direct result of social media. I really do. But I will actively seek you out, so you have to really hide from me because I want to talk to you. but I don't miss many of those things in social media, and I feel good. The lack of social media at first was like it was ever present every day that I wasn't on social media. It was such an issue that I thought about it daily. That I'm not on social. I wonder what's going on. That is no longer an aspect of it. I talk about it more for the podcast or around my family than I do anything. I would like to be an advocate to say you don't have to leave it. Just use it less. Delete it from your phone. Make it to where you have to go in and sign in. If you got to go to the web page in your browser and sign in. Limit yourself, time yourself, write down how much you use it a day. Don't engage in political posts. Don't engage in all these things, and use it as really as a way to connect, as a way to share, as a way to send this to your aunt who lives 2 states away, or this to send to your mother who's busy and you're busy and you've not got a chance to send a picture of your kids. Use it to share with friends that are no longer around here. Use it for those things. I think that has a value, a real value. After stepping away and then kind of looking back, another thing that has kind of turned me against Facebook as a company are kind of the double standards. I was told by a person that all mass shooters are white because of white privilege. I didn't report it or whine or cry. It was an ignorant statement by an ignorant person. But if I had reported it, I don't believe that anything would have been said or done. But I have a friend that has done some hard time in Facebook jail. I'm hoping to have him on the show soon. He may hurt your feelings. But he's been punished for things that are far less egregious than that. But even though they were a joke, they come from a different side of the aisle. I feel that Facebook is very leftist and very overly liberal. And if that's a personal stance by them, that's okay. But if they are using that belief structure to silence other voices, I don't believe in that. I believe in the First Amendment. I also believe that they're a private company and have the right to do what they want. I just wish there was an alternative that was truly free and open speech. And I feel like for them to, for many, so not just Facebook, for social media in general, Alex Jones has been deplatformed in so many places. Alex Jones is a sociopath, probably. I mean, that would be my guess. I'm never going to listen to anything he says. He's a nut, and he's a character playing a character and saying things for the pure intent of inciting a response. And I don't believe that he believes anything he says, and I don't know why anybody would ever listen to him. Yet they deplatformed him. Farrakhan, on the other hand, is still spreading hate on a daily basis. I don't understand the people they do and don't block, and from social media as a whole. Even YouTube is getting into that now, and YouTube is wanting to control things, and I understand some of that because it is an ad revenue based thing, and if the people paying for the ads don't want it, I would just like to see the ability to have a different setup where a company would tell the sponsors, hey, if you want to get in on this huge opportunity, then it's freedom of speech here and we can say what we want. And I think that was the most appealing thing to me from the very conception of social media, from having weird names, screen names on ICQ, to being able to post song lyrics and have songs play in the background of MySpace, to being able to put profile pictures and post things that reflected my stand on things on Facebook. That was the appeal, was the freedom to say and think what I want. And we are nowhere near a point of some Orwellian 1984 thought police society. I'm not over dramatic, and I don't think we're to that point, but I think that if we start allowing these very public, very kind of town hallish type applications to apply a filter, no matter if it be left or right, to where they are being heavy handed and trying to force their beliefs on us, then we lose that freedom that I did enjoy. And it would be one of the few things that would get me back. Now, I don't want to post political posts, and I don't want to argue and fight with people who clearly already have their mind made up and don't want to debate. I love debate. I love conversation. I love to have my mind changed. I love for you to sit down, talk to me, and be able to change my mind. That I love. But I don't want to see your memes that I don't agree with and not be able to laugh and poke fun at them. Everything's funny. Nothing is off limits. Not even your beliefs. But sometimes on social media, if your beliefs coincide a certain way, they seem to be off limits. And I don't like that. But at the end of this experience, at the end of this little experiment, I'll say this. I feel better not having been involved with social media every day. I'm a better person for it. My mind works better. My physical, my body feels different. My mind feels different. It works different. It works better. If nothing else, try a month. Try a month off, but a real month. Not checking it, but not posting, not this, not that. A real month. Delete it off your phone. Do not log in. See if it makes a difference. If it doesn't make a difference, get back on. Take another month later. Take 2 weeks a month off. Take a week a month off. Limit it. Some people are good at it. Some people are addictively based like myself and can't do that. But now I've got to try to promote this podcast for at least a couple weeks without social media, and then eventually I will be back on social media to try to get this thing big. I enjoy doing these. I want to make it good. I want guests. I want listeners. So it's in a process of limbo right now. But you guys have a great day, and thank you for listening. And remember, like it, find it, share it, do what you can with it, and have a great day.